To fully understand the photoelectric effect, we have to go back into physics, discovery, history, and it all starts with black body radiation. A black body is an object that perfectly absorbs all wavelengths of the electromagnetic radiation. And it absorbs everything from low frequency waves or AC radiation to high frequency cosmic rays and gamma rays. The absorbed energy is then perfectly re-emitted as electromagnetic radiation. Now, in classical physics, it was predicted, if you think about the universal wave equation, that as the frequency increased, the intensity should increase continuously. And that as you get smaller and smaller wavelengths, you would get or move towards an infinite amount of emitted energy. Now, this prediction was completely wrong. If we look at this graph here, we can see that, yes, it does peak at one point. However, and it does peak in the shorter wavelengths, which would mean the highest frequency, but then after violet, it actually drops off again. So there seems to be a plateau of emitted energy. And so as you can see here, this actual graph peaks at a particular frequency, then drops off sharply. And this unexplained drop-off at ultraviolet frequencies became known as, and this is a famous term, the ultraviolet catastrophe. And it's called that because all the classical physics just collapses once we get past our ultraviolet light here. So to fully understand here, classical theory suggested this, that you got wavelength, right, which increases right or left to right. So if you read the graph from right to left, that would be decreasing wavelength. And classical theory said that, well, it should just keep infinitely going up, right? And that would be the intensity of the electromagnetic radiation or the energy emitted. And what we actually saw here, and this is done at different temperatures, but the similar pattern, is that after a certain wavelength, it drops back down again. So Max Planck had a solution to this. He said that, or he proposed that energy is not this continuous beam from or beam of energy from a wave, and that it actually comes in tiny individual pieces called quanta. Each quantum of energy is related to frequency, and he quantified this with this equation, E equals h multiplied by f, where h is the constant, Planck's constant, is about 6.63 times 10 to the negative 34 joules times seconds. If you're using joules, if it's electron volts, it's a different constant. And then your frequency here would be the frequency of the wave, and multiplying those together, you would get the energy emitted. Now, this meant that energy is quantized, that it's not just one continuous beam, that it's broken down into different packages or quanta, and each package can contain a different amount of energy. So you can think about this like a newspaper photo. From far away, it looks like continuous, meaning like all the words and images, if you stand far enough, they look like they're all kind of one. And you can't see the difference between them. Now, as you get closer to that newspaper, you can see the individual dots. And if you get closer, you see the individual words. And then if you get really close enough, you can actually read the individual messages. This idea explained why black body radiation graphs had that mysterious peak and drop off. Because if energy is packaged and given in packages, then you will have peaks and lows. This marked the beginning of quantum mechanics. Not long after came Einstein's photon theory. An extension of Planck's work, he proposed that light itself consists of individual particles called photons. Each photon, kind of like quanta, carries energy according to Planck's equation, h times f. Now, a photon's energy depends only on its frequency, not on the light's intensity. This meant that light behaves as both a particle and a wave, and this challenged centuries of scientific understanding, and believe me, it was not accepted by the larger scientific community at first. So Planck's formula is E equals n multiplied by h multiplied by f, where E is the energy of the quantum, or the package. N refers to the number of quanta, or energy pockets, or packages of a given energy, and h is the constant of proportionality. F, of course, is the frequency of light. Now, if we're using joules as our energy units, then this is the constant, 6.63 times 10 to the negative 34. But if we are using electron volts, then it's 4.14 times 10 to the negative 15. Then this brings us to the famous photoelectric effect. Now, what is that photoelectric effect? The photoelectric effect occurs when light shines on a metal surface and causes electrons to be ejected from that surface. Remember that unlike most elements on the periodic table, your metals are surrounded by delocalized electrons. So they're kind of there resting at the surface. They're more relatively easier to dislodge than, say, one of the halogens. When photons from the light ray hit the metal, they transfer their energy to the electrons. If the photon has enough energy to excite the electrons enough that it can remove itself from the local area of the metal, then you'll have an electron that is dislodged. This effect proves that light behaves as particles, not just as waves. Now, why does it prove this, though? The photoelectric effect doesn't prove light is only a particle. It proves that light has a particle aspect because energy exchange happens in discrete collisions, like when particles interact. If you're thinking about, let's say, atom-to-atom bonding. A photon interaction is more like a single ball hitting a target with a definite amount of energy. Now, every metal on the periodic table has a different ionization energy, which is the energy that is needed to dislodge its electron from its orbit around the nucleus. And that has to do with how attracted the electrons are to the nuclei of those metals. Now, every one of them is going to be a little different because they all have a different atomic radius. So that being said, based on that ionization energy, each metal has a minimum energy needed to release that electron, and we call that energy that is needed the work function. Light must have a high enough frequency to provide this minimum energy that is needed to dislodge those electrons. The threshold frequency is the lowest frequency of light that can cause this photoelectric effect. Light below the threshold frequency will not eject electrons because it doesn't have enough energy to ionize that metal, no matter how bright it is. Light above the threshold frequency will eject electrons with leftover kinetic energy. Again, we're going to use Planck's equation where the photon energy must exceed this work function. And so here's a diagram of how this kind of works in terms of the photoelectric effect. So imagine that package of energy, that photon. If it has a higher frequency than the threshold frequency, then it will have enough energy to be able to dislodge that electron when it strikes the surface. But if it does not, and it is below the threshold frequency, then just like this diagram shows, nothing will happen. Now, there are three main formulas that we combine to describe the photoelectric effect, and it has to do with the terms we talked about before. This formula here, which comes from the Planck's formula, is the energy of the photon. So that's how much energy that one photon packs. And this would be equal to the frequency of the light wave, and that would be measured in hertz. And then this here is your Planck's constant. And your energy can be measured in electron volts or joules. And we just have to make sure to use the appropriate Planck's constant when that's the case. Now, this formula over here is what we call the work function. And that's the minimum energy that is required to dislodge that electron. So it's a product of the threshold frequency. So that's the minimum frequency that the incoming light wave has to be in order to be able to provide that minimum energy, and that's measured in hertz. And then it's also multiplied by Planck's constant. And this one would be given in joules. And so the work function, it is the minimum energy, so that it's going to be given in joules. We have the kinetic energy here. So once that electron has become energized enough, then it is going to move. So this one will just write the Ke, or kinetic energy, of the electron. And so combining all of them together, the kinetic energy of the electron, or the kinetic energy that the electron is going to experience, so that would be this here, so I'll just write of the electron, once it's being dislodged off the surface of the metal, is going to be the difference between the energy of the incoming photon and then minus the work function, or the energy that is needed to be overcome. So using all these formulas here, let's solve a couple of photoelectric effect problems. One thing I want to just add here is that you can also commonly express the work function in electron volts as well. So let's look at the first problem here. We're at light of wavelength 480 nanometers. We'll just convert that to meters right away. That'd be 4.80 times 10 to the negative 7 meters. Is just able to produce photoelectrons when striking a metal surface. What is the work function of the metal? So our work function is going to be equal to Planck's constant multiplied by the threshold frequency. Now, because it says here that it is just able to produce photoelectrons when striking a metal surface, that means that the threshold frequency must equal the frequency of the light wave. So what we're going to do is, in plugging this in, and we're going to answer this in electron volts. So we're going to use the constant 4.14 times 10 to the negative 15, and that is going to be in for the electron volts conversion here. And then we're going to multiply it by, well, the wavelength, which is by the speed of light. Remember that frequency here can equal to the speed of light over the wavelength. So we're going to go 3.0 times 10 to the 8 meters per second over 4.80 times 10 to the negative 7 meters. And when we do that, we end up getting a work function of about 2.5875. But since we want 3 significant digits here, we're going to go 2.59 electron volts. So a photoelectron is just a dislodged electron as a result of the photoelectric effect. So the energy, or the type of energy I should say, that would be the kinetic energy. So we are going to use this formula here, right? As that is the kinetic energy of the electron. So to find that, we're going to go Ke is going to be equal to the difference between your energy of the photon that strikes the metal surface. So that would be Planck's constant multiplied by the frequency. And then it's going to be subtracted by the work function. Now, since our work function is given in electron volts, we're going to use the electron volts constant once again. So that's 4.14 times 10 to the negative 15, and that'll be electron volts per second. And that's going to be subtracted, or sorry, I should say we're going to multiply by the frequency. Now, we don't have the frequency here directly, but we can plug in, right, Same thing, that the frequency is going to be your speed of light over the wavelength of the blue wave. So 3.00 times 10 to the 8 meters per second divided by the wavelength, which is 4.10 times 10 to the negative 7 meters. And then we're going to subtract that from the work function, which is 2.10 electron volts. And after plugging that into our calculator, the kinetic energy of the photoelectron is going to be about 0.929 electron volts. So we'll just say that's 0.93 electron volts because we want two significant digits. Okay, so over here, because they tell us that it is cesium, over here we have the general work functions which have been sort of developed and derived experimentally. So here I have the cesium work function here, and that's in electron volts. So we're going to go Ke is equal to, because we want to figure out what the kinetic energy is, Hf minus the work function. Now, since the work function is in electron volts, we're going to use Planck's constant for the electron volt, which is negative 10 to the negative 15. And then we're going to multiply that by the frequency of the wave. Now, we don't have the direct frequency, but as we've done before, you can take the speed of light and divide it by the wavelength. In this case, it's 3.00 times 10 to the 8 meters per second, and then that's going to be divided by the wavelength, which is 4.00 times 10 to the negative 7. And then we're going to subtract this from the work function, so the minimum required energy, which is 2.10 electron volts. So when we plug this in here, and we do it carefully in our calculator, we end up getting our kinetic energy of the photoelectron in about 1.01 electron volts here. Now, for the next question, where I want to find the minimum speed, remember that Ke is equal to half, or 0.5 mv squared here. Now, the mass of the electron is given in our data booklet, and it's about 9.11 times 10 to the negative 31 kilograms. Okay, so here's the thing. The kinetic energy is in electron volts, but in order for us to get the speed and to use this formula properly, we're going to want it in joules. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert our electron volts into joules, and we're going to do that over here. So from electron volts into joules, it is going to be, we have 1.01 electron volts multiplied by the ratio, which is going to be 1.60 times 10 to the negative 19 joules per electron volt. And that gives us about 1.616 times 10 to the negative 19 joules. So now we're going to plug that whole value here in our equation. And what we're going to do is we're just going to isolate for our V here. And when we plug this into our calculator, the maximum speed of the electron ends up being about 5.95 times 10 to the 5 meters per second.